So without further introduction, I will just invite our great lineup for today. We'll discuss today about energy security with the Minister of Energy of Romania, Mr. Sebastian Burduja. Welcome, Minister. And thank you very much for being here with us today. With Ambassador Stanislav Kazeki, please. The Ambassador of the Czech Republic to the Republic of Moldova. Welcome, Ambassador. Thank you very much for coming. With the CEO of OMV Petrom, Ms. Cristina Vercher. It is always a pleasure to have the debates, and thanking you again for being a supporter and a friend of Aspen Institute events all the time. CEO of E.ON Romania, Mr. Volker Raffel. Welcome, sir. Thank you very much for being here. And Mr. Jiri Kotas, the CEO of Premier Energy from the Republic of Moldova. Welcome. Please. Ladies and gentlemen, what a time to discuss about energy security and the security of supply. I will not speak more about the crisis we are passing because we all know what are the components of this crisis and so on. But I will start with a very old saying: in every crisis there is an opportunity. And let's look a little bit at the regional context. Romania is basically bordering a conflict now. Romania has a huge energy potential, as we know it. The European Union has, as a center point of its economic development, energy as a pivotal point, and the Green Deal programs and the investment. We discussed about the new technologies and so on. So I would start by asking you, Mr. Burduja, about Romania's position bordering the events that are happening in the region, but also having a global look. What is our contribution to ensure the energy security and the sustainability of the energy sector in the region?
Thank you very much. This is working. I don't know if I should.
It will work.
There we go. As I said, I'm no longer the Minister of Digitalization, so I feel completely unresponsible for technical problems. Thank you for the invitation, first of all, and congratulations to Aspen for another amazing edition. I think you have done a wonderful job every year and every single time. First of all, I see very special people in the audience who are moving the country ahead and the energy sector ahead. And second, there's not a lot of ideas flowing out there in Romania. It's a relatively scarce commodity. So Aspen is one of those precious places where people and ideas meet. And by the end of it, I'm sure you will draw the conclusions that will help us as decision makers make better choices. I think Romania has by far the largest contribution to the energy transition and energy security generally in the region. And I hope nobody will blame me for it. I am the Romanian Minister of Energy, so I have to believe in what I'm saying. But I do think that we have some arguments to support it. And the first is that we have very diverse resources and a very diverse energy mix. We have about 60% of Europe's water reserves in Romania, and about a third of our energy mix comes from hydro still. And we continue large investments in the hydro sector. I would just quickly mention the Tarnița-Lăpuștești hydro pumped storage, which is up to 1 gigawatt, and we're in the process of acquiring a feasibility study that will allow us in 6-7 years from now to have the first hydropump storage plant in Romania, with a key role in both energy production and the stability of our grid. Then we have nuclear, and we haven't had it since yesterday. It's really a tradition since about 50 years ago, and we have nuclear based on Western technology. It's something that pays off even today, as Russian fuel and Russian nuclear technologies are no longer reliable for Europe. Romania can rely on its own resources and on a pretty much integrated nuclear cycle, from mining uranium, which we're in the process of restarting, to processing uranium, to heavy water production, to actually nuclear energy generation. And we pride ourselves in running 2 of the most efficient nuclear reactors in the world. Out of 440 nuclear reactors, units 2 and 1 in Cernavodă are first and third in the world. And we do have an ambitious SMR program, which we are accelerating, and we will continue to move forward despite current events. Happy to discuss that as well. I think that we are very well positioned now more than ever to be the first country in Europe and possibly the world to have SMRs in operation in Romania. And then we have gas, and we have a lot of it. And we're going to have a lot more, thanks to some of the people in this room and others. And that's 10 billion cubic meters, up to 10 BCM per year, starting in 2027. That's pretty much our consumption today, which we're already covering through onshore production and through the BCOG project in the Black Sea. So you can envision, not far from now, a scenario where Romania both uses this additional gas in its industry, and I hope that will be the case in petrochemicals and in pharma, but also has some quantity to export and help reduce the dependency of other countries in our neighborhood on resources that are at the whims of dictators, which we know is never a good idea. Energy as a weapon has been used many times before, and in the context of Ukraine and the Russian invasion in Ukraine, I think that gave Europe the perfect opportunity to say, you're out, no more. We've had it with this blackmail. And I think in large part, Europe has managed to diversify away from Russian gas. And Romania's...
Are we doing good?
Romania is doing great. Europe, not as much, especially some countries. I mean, recently yesterday I had an exchange with Peter Szijjártó, the Hungarian Minister of Foreign Affairs and Commerce. And he made the argument that, technically speaking, they cannot be off of Russian gas at this point. So we have explored opportunities for increasing interconnections and them benefiting from more gas, not just from Romania, but from other non-Russian markets. And he was open to it. And you may have seen what I said. I said it's very difficult and very risky to try to ride the bear, because you will end up inside. And so I think that, again, Romania can be and will be a pillar of stability and an energy hub insofar as the gas sector. And of course, green energy, so solar and wind and biomass and hydrogen, where we're making amazing progress. We have by the end of the year, we will have 1,500 megawatts installed by households, as we call them,
exactly,
prosumers.
The prosumers are now bigger than the biggest generating units in Romania.
That's right. That's right. They'll be bigger than the nuclear plant, than both units in Cernavodă. And I'm also happy to let you know that we've signed, as a ministry, over 600 megawatts through the RRF funding for investment 1, which is solar and wind. And we have not depleted the budget. So for sure, we will exceed 2 gigawatts by the end of the final evaluation. So all this means that Romania is, again, very well positioned. I haven't mentioned offshore wind, but that's another key priority. We will have the law by the end of this year, and we're looking forward to several large projects in the Black Sea that will come online in 2032, 2033. And for all that, and I'll end here, we need transmission. So we need a proper grid, and not just alternative current, but direct current as well. That's why we're very ambitious on building the interconnector east-west on HVDC from Dobroja to the western border that will help evacuate the additional energy that Cernavoda will produce, that offshore wind will produce, that other wind and solar projects in eastern Romania will produce, all the way to Transylvania, where a lot of our consumption is, and beyond, to Hungary and Central Europe. So, you know, we have the resources, we have talent, we have a vision, and, you know, all we need is just the willingness to make things happen and the continuity. And the challenge for politicians, for better or worse, I am one, is to make sure that these projects continue long term. Because, as I said before, they are not for the next election, they're for the next generation.
Indeed, it's a long lead time or kind of projects. So probably, and the continuity is probably something that was very, very often discussed and debated in most of our discussions in the past years. So there is a positive message about the fact that we've got the entire ecosystem basically ready to implement finally the projects that we are debating about in the past 20 years maybe.
And there's another key ingredient, if you'll allow me, which is this simple message: we're open for business. Government doesn't need to do these projects by itself. I am not of the view that government alone can do them. In fact, I'm convinced that we cannot.
The market is now democratized, right?
It is. It is. And all we need to do as government, I think, is step aside and ensure a fair playing field for private investors. And even for large projects like Tarnica, like the SMR project, we're not interested in being the majority stakeholder or owning 100% of the project. I think it's enough to actually let the private sector lead, and that will ensure continuity. When you have a majority privately owned investment project, chances are it will be finalized on time, on budget, and it will actually be carried through. If it was majority public, the next government might say, I have a different idea.
And also the history is showing us that in the past years, the most megawatts were built or commissioned by IPPs and private investors putting their money in these new megawatts. Thank you very much for the introduction.
I apologize, I need to run.
Thank you very much for being here with us.
But as you said, you can disagree with everything I said.
We'll also have some questions that we'll send you later on. I will just pass a little bit to Ambassador Kazaki. Now, looking a little bit wider in the region, EU stood in solidarity with Ukraine and Moldova since the beginning of the war, and basically the day the conflict erupted marked the initiation of the tests of Moldova and Ukraine being interconnected and being synchronized with the European system, UCT. Is Europe doing enough in order to better integrate Ukraine and Moldova in the energy sector?
Well, just to give you the answer, I think we are doing what we can, and we hope it will be enough. You know, it's just the short answer which I can give you. Well, probably it won't be a surprise that I will speak more about Moldova than about Romania. It's the place where I am posted, and as said Natalia Gavrielica in one of the previous sessions, you know, I can avoid to speak about Moldova. Back to your question, you know, I think that during my experience in Moldova, and it's 2.5 years since I'm posted there, the increase of interests for Moldova is very much visible, you know, politically, but as well institutionally. Just in last year, the European countries opened 3 new embassies in Moldova, just to give an example how it's becoming important for
more and more important than it used to be.
Yeah, than it used to be before. And well, the reason why it is so, it's obviously the conflict on between Russia and Ukraine, and the Russian aggression towards Ukraine, because it created, well, bigger interest and kind of protective manner to Moldova. And what I have seen during those 2.5 years, it's a huge solidarity which the Europeans, now I'm speaking about the governments, but as well about the civil society, towards that what's happening in the country. Well, we have heard here quite optimistic speech about Romania, but Moldova is, as you very well know, scarce of resources. It's not that easy to provide the country with the heat in the winter, with the fuel, and so on and so on. But I mean that the last winter was just a confirmation that the European family is taking care for the Moldovans. By the way, a couple of thousands of Moldovans were Romanian citizens, as all of us we know. And the energy crisis which Moldova faced last winter was very well solved. Well, of course, it wasn't an easy task, and until now it's not easy task. But I mean the government which Natalia Gavrica is representing, or the government with the Prime Minister Chan, it's doing reasonably well. Well, not perfect. It's a government which is governing, but is doing reasonably well. And I mean, there are two important moments, energy-wise, in the Republic of Moldova. What's important for keeping the situation going well in Moldova? And the first one, it's interconnection. You very well know that there is a relatively new gas connection between Ungeni and Chisinau via Iași, which is giving the opportunity for Moldovans to negotiate easily with the principal provider of electricity, which is in Kuchurgan, it's the electric power station, which is on Transnistrian region, and as well the electricity interconnection. But there is a new way of answer connection with European states, but as well there is under construction the new line from Vulcanești to the north of the country in Chisinau. So it's a very important point. And the second point, which I would take, that it's quite more important for Moldova right now, are the investment in the green energy, because, well, Romania has a gas, Romania has water resources, and so on and so on. That's not the case of Moldova, but I mean, this could be a kind of future for the energy mix of Moldova, for sure. It's impossible to solve the problem as such, but it could be a part of the energy mix for the future. And for this, and I guess that about that will speak more my colleagues on the panel, it's necessary to keep to organize the proper manner of the conditions to invest in this direction. And I guess that in this Moldova could be quite successful. In my previous posting, I was ambassador to Portugal, and well, within the energy mix of Portugal, nearly 50% are the renewables. So I don't see the reason why it couldn't happen something like that in the near future in Moldova too. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Going now to the private sector, and I would keep the topic for the Republic of Moldova and the regional topic. What is new from the private environment perspective? And what do you consider are the things that are changed in the past 1 year and a half?
So probably the significant change in energy sector is a plan that was declared by leaders of the country to have a carbon neutral energy sector in a reasonable horizon. So there are big plans in solar and wind farms. We are expecting big capacity tenders. They were announced last year, but there is a delay as usually. So hopefully in the beginning of the next year, there will be a tender for this solar and wind farms. We would like to participate as a private investor. Premier Energy, it's a part of Czech group EMA Capital that is also acting here in Romania.
So the war did boosted the renewable sector in
at least
the
there is a
Republic
lot
of Moldova.
Political declaration of this type. What is not clear is legislation. So there is a new set of laws in these days in a government that will go to parliament. The problem is that the energy market is very strictly regulated, so it's probably not very attractive for foreign investors. If you are building green sector and if there is a big capacity concentrated in solar and wind, you need also so-called balancing capacity. So the estimates are that for each, say, 100 megawatts, you will need 20 megawatts of power stations that is able to react to unpredictable behavior of sun or wind. Typically, a big power station starts several days from 0 to 100%. We have a plan to build balancing power station based on gas, probably from Romania. And such a power station is able to go from 0 to 100% in 10 or 15 minutes. Again, the problem is with the legislation in a regulated market, the price for such type of electricity, or even for the capacity that you are waiting for a moment that you have to produce. So the price is different than in say base load in standard production of electricity. I have to mention there was a question about if EU or Europe is doing the effort is sufficiently big. I have to mention that not only EU, but there is a huge grant from US aid. It's a so-called MESA project, and it will bring to Moldova $300 million only in the energy sector. So it's a significant improvement of infrastructure, energy infrastructure. Every good thing has some bad consequences. So such big grants little bit deform the market. So we are speaking now with regulator, with government, with the ministry, how to equalize conditions for private investors and state-owned companies that are getting such big support.
Thank you very much. Coming and staying actually here in the private sector market, Ms. Vershar, you are running basically the biggest energy company in Romania, and I have a surprise for you. I will not ask you about the future of gas, not this time. But I would like to debate with OMV and DEON. Your agenda.
Thank you, and good afternoon, everyone. It's very nice to be back here again. This is always, I think, a landmark event in Romania. So just the last year, big challenges. So, I mean, I think actually when you look at us as a firm, and for those of you maybe who are from outside of Romania, OMV Petrom is predominantly, we're an energy company, historically an oil and gas company. We make up about a third of the demand for fuel. We provide about a third of the demand for natural gas and about 10% of the electricity market. That is who we are today. And at the end of 2021, we put our strategy out to 2030, which I think is a lot about how does an oil and gas company transform itself for the sustainability agenda of climate, for the sustainability agenda of Romania, and for the sustainability agenda of its own company as well. Because in the end, if the demand for your product that you're providing today is going to change in the next 20 years, so you must transform the company as well of that. So in the same time, in comes obviously a very strong focus on energy security. And those of us who are in the energy sector, we think energy security is a very important thing. When others start to realize that, there becomes a lot of attention and focus on that. So I think also we have to talk about how do we make sure we supply the energy needs of today, of tomorrow, and then transforming for the energy needs that are coming 10, 20, 30 years down the road as well. And this is the challenge, I think, for all energy companies today from that. So I will touch maybe on a few. So I will touch with energy security, and then I will end with energy transition of that. So I think we strongly believe, and I have to say, if we look back to what has happened in the last period, and how the European Union and Europe itself has gone from almost a 40% dependency on Russian gas to 10%, it does show you that this sector can be incredibly agile when it needs to be. I think it came at quite a high cost of that, and it reminded us, and I think Larissa on an earlier panel talked about, Europe is the largest importer of energy. So to me, energy transformation, energy transition is also about energy security in the medium and to long term as well, so that Europe removes itself from that position overall. So I'll talk about domestic production, because actually if you have your own resources, this is often the foundation of your energy security. And as the energy minister said earlier, this is where Romania is very strong.
Energy independence should be easy here,
it should be
in
easy.
this part of Europe, right?
It should be easy. So, and it's becoming, we're getting there. So obviously, I think we made a big announcement in June, the long-awaited final investment decision of the Neptune Deep project. This is, I think, game-changing for us as investors, but game-changing as well for the country, and I believe also for the region overall from that. Where are we right now? So we announced the final investment decision. We got the approval of the field development plan from the regulator, and we awarded the largest contract, which is 1.6 billion euros with regards to the offshore installations and the building of that. That's been awarded. The total project overall is 4 billion, so 1.6 is actually a pretty big milestone of that. And now we're walking through the remaining awarding of the contracts and the permitting process. The goal, and we remain very strongly attached to the start of the first gas in 2027. Our goal, start up safely, start up on budget, on schedule. This is what we do. And I think the minister made the point that is the job of private sector. This is what we will do from that. And we built a very international team of that, and we have a strong relationship with our partner, Romgas. We are 50% and they are 50%. So the start gun happened in June, and it's moving forward, because I think we have many, many eyes on us to make sure this project is delivered and provides the much needed gas to this region. But then I come also to maybe the smaller things as well, because we also announced earlier this year some smaller discoveries of that. So I think the minister had said earlier that Neptune is 100 BCM in total. This is the total volume that we have in Neptune Deep. Probably a lot smaller than that, but we had some discoveries onshore in Romania. And what's important about this is it's 4 years until we see Neptune. So we also need to make sure the energy security in the next few years is there as well. So we had some small discoveries, and we will be able to bring them online. When you move away from your domestic, you're then into the conversation about import and the diversification. So we are also a big importer of crude of that because we are a fuel supplier to the market. And right after the Ukraine situation, we moved very quickly away from our Russian imports and now have all non-Russian imports of crude coming in. Our refinery is well adaptable to many different types of crude, and this is something you become aware of when suddenly you have to take an important crude slate away of that, and I think we've shown the resilience there with regards to providing that. But also we are importing in gas as well of that, when we signed a contract with BOTAŞ in Turkey, also being able to provide gas. And actually we also provide gas to Moldova as well of that. So we also want to make sure Romanian customers, but also new customers in Moldova with regards to that. And then if you look beyond sort of other sources, you then get to the energy transition, and I will close with my final comment on this. So when we laid out our strategy, it was from 2021 to 2030, and we said we'll invest 11 billion euros. 2 billion of that is Neptune. So there is a lot more that is not Neptune. Obviously, we have a big responsibility to the existing oil and gas production in Romania, but 35% of our 11 billion is into low and zero carbon opportunities of that. And so we are looking at renewable. So we have built up a portfolio of projects of 1 gigawatt to have on stream by the end and in production by the end of the decade. Very confident we'll do that ahead of time of that. We're also looking at sustainable aviation fuel. We're also looking at hydrogen. We've actually building probably the largest electric vehicle charger network in the country. So these are all the aspects that actually also make sure that we provide the customers what they want, what customers want, lower carbon footprint, security of supply, and as quickly as possible.
So electrification is the future of gas?
Well, we also have a gas-fired power plant, so I totally agree with my colleague here. When you actually, what we do see is in our renewable power, but also the gas power, is a very important combination if you want reliability and customers want reliability overall. So just some comments from me. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Mr. Rafal, as a representative of one of the most important European players, we would be interested to hear about your comments on how the latest events basically influenced the energy sector in Europe.
Yeah, it was really interesting to listen, and I share really what you said on the. I believe in cooperation, but I do not believe it's good to be dependent. And therefore, I really believe Romania has a good position and all the ingredients are here. And we have a once-in-a-lifetime chance with all the European money around. We have the possibility, we have a banking system that works, we have European funds available, and all ingredients are here to learn our lessons and to do so quickly. And by the way, we are doing it. It was mentioned by Minister Boduja how many solar panels currently are connected. In this very moment, we connect 1,000 a month, 1,000 prosumers a month, just in our area in Moldova.
As a number?
As a number, 1,000 prosumers a month. So the installed capacity I'm expecting to be installed in our area of distribution is more than 150 megawatts, which means roughly, in some circumstances, the sun is shining, we cover more than a fourth of the need of the region by solar, and at the same time we are going to connect wind plants. And by the way, the PV installation is just to start. Casa Verde hopefully will be unblocked soon, and other programs are following. So. Yes, it is absolutely correct to think long-term. It is absolutely correct because the total energy system will need it to invest into the gas, to invest into power plants, to invest into that power line Minister Boduja was mentioning. In this very moment, already millions of euros are invested into power that is already available. So all ingredients are there, we are on the good direction, and now if you have good ingredients, in order to make a good cake, you need a good cook to arrange it in the right order, in the right temperature, and so on and so forth. And that's, I think, the situation we are currently in. It is, all these investments I just was mentioning are connected to the distribution grids. So it's okay to think, to continue to think in the right meaning on big projects, on transmission grids, on huge big power plants, because also we need them as well. But in this very moment, all these megawatts are connected to the distribution grid, and the distribution grid was not prepared in the past for it. And in the crisis of last year, tariffs have been frozen, so we are in delay. And I think the part I can contribute to the success story, I think all of us need to contribute, and we are going to contribute, I'm convinced. The part I can contribute to that solution is to strengthen the electricity grids. And now, of course, there's an anxiousness among some politicians. This may somehow cost some money, yeah. You know, already everything is should be even cheaper, or at least not far more expensive. The good news is, from my point of view, distribution tariff is only a very small part of the total invoice. And we only need somehow, I'm always bringing this picture of a house. The house is already built, and additional luxury rooms are built, so to say. The PVs are invested, the money already is there. So the house is built, and now we are talking about whether we want to invest into the key to open that house or not. And right now we are preparing for the next year, the tariff setting for next year, afterwards the next regulatory period. And I think what is really new in this very situation is the importance of distribution grids, but also the possibility Romania has. With this key, you can unblock private money, you can unblock credits, and you can unblock a hell of a lot of European money. For instance, a modernization fund. If you have set the right thing to the right framework to make it, to have it really justified to invest into 20% of a project, the other 80% are going to be paid by European money. And if we unblock this one, I'm confident that we can achieve the success. E.ON already has run some EU-funded projects in the past, worth some millions euro. In this very moment, we are implementing already in this very moment projects of some tenth of millions of European money. And we have proven that we can manage all those successful. And our plan is to invest some hundreds of millions of European money in the next few years. And that money is available. If we do it, if the cook is smart enough to combine the ingredients in the right way, we can come to a solution that is not costing additional money to the customers as long as the prices are kept. But even if we unblock now all this power, which is produced by PVs in this very moment to arrive at the market, then we can even bring down the total electricity price by doing the right things in the distribution grid.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. What do we do in order to increase a little bit the pace of development of these projects? And basically, why still do you think that what is needed in order to improve a little bit the infrastructure that will lead basically to the growth of these very, very new projects? On paper now, I think there are 40 gigawatts for new projects under different stages of authorization and so on. 40 gigawatts means a lot for 8 gigawatts consumption country, right? Will we supply electricity for the entire Europe? Are we capable to do this?
Yes and no. So if we install all that power, it's mostly renewable, but not only. It means that we are going to have good days with a lot of wind and a lot of suns, which means a lot of electricity being available. So this, of course, shall be used. And the only technology you can store these excess of electricity is in a big scale. Yeah, there are many technologies, and Tarnica was mentioned and so on, but on a big scale, to store electricity from one week to another one is for sure also hydrogen. And there's one misunderstanding in Romania sometimes. If I talk to politicians, I realize this one. I'm talking about biogas and hydrogen, and then sometimes the reaction is, listen, we are a gas country. Why the hell are you talking about biogas and hydrogen? No one needs it. We have a hell of a lot of gas, and thanks to some colleagues here in the room and others, we are going to have even more. The reality is, Europe is heavily dependent, as I said in the beginning, and we must reduce this dependency. And there's enough of room in the whole Europe for investing into biogas like hell, and hydrogen being available from renewables. And I do not think this is any competition of the gas you are having. It's just complementing the solution we need to build. And just to mention one piece of information, in this very moment, I'm contacted often by investors that want to invest into biogas units. The willingness to invest is already there. The demand for that gas is there because, you know, European companies often by their legislation are forced to use green gases. So customers are there that want to buy that gas produced by Romanian farmers for the German market. So let's open together this market because it means a money inflow to Romanian farmers, which must be allowed. And on the other hand, we will not spoil the Romanian system by the amount of biogas we are going to produce. And we can reduce by starting this endeavor to both decarbonize, to have more growth for Romania, and at the same time that Romania plays its role to the region, not only by delivering electricity and gas abroad, but I'm convinced, and was participating in a Ahashkar conference recently in Berlin, where also Minister Buduja, by the way, and also a Moldavian representative has been there, and I believe it's a truth for the two countries. I'm convincing as many people as I can, come to Romania to invest here. It is the place to be. You have gas, as we mentioned. You will have all this electricity, which I mentioned. Whatever the rules and the laws are going to be in a few years, if you are close to that abundance of energy, it's just good for you. And Romania has not only this one. Romania has a framework, Romania has engineers, Romania has capacities, has talents, and therefore I'm convinced if energy is too expensive for you in some other places in Europe, and you still want to invest into whatever you produce, come to Romania, that's the right place to be.
If there are, thank you very much for this very, very optimistic message. If, of course, there are questions from the audience, it would be a pleasure to listen. My final question for all the panelists would be the following. If we are in 2030 now and we look around, what is the biggest and the most striking factor that you see different from how it used to be in 2023? What is the thing that, looking around, is very different and unexpected, maybe?
So if I still have a micro, please allow me to start shortly. I was just thinking, we are discussing the energy situation in 2050, which is roughly 30 years ahead of us. I just was thinking, what was my plan for this year in 1989? Probably it was not, whatever I would have forecasted probably would not have been correct. So yes, we need a long-term thinking and a strategy and alignment, but we must do the right, even if you need to do hundreds of steps, you always start with the first one. So let's start to do the right steps in this very moment, which I described on the issue of distribution. I think we are doing and taking the right decisions for investments, which pay off on a longer term. Let's do the right things today. And I do not think that we can decide everything today and then afterwards you just do implementation for the next 30 years. So you, unfortunately, you still will need managers and politicians also next year to adapt and adjust. But I strongly believe we together find the best solutions if we have sincere dialogue and try to have a stable framework and do the right steps in the beginning. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Maybe I would just add a couple of thoughts. So firstly, I think by 2030, we'll all be thinking about 2040 and 2050, because it's one decade along the way of a journey of 3 decades of that. And I would hope that we will see, obviously, an abundance of gas. I would like that is helping support the country and also the region as well. I believe we will continue to see a huge amount of growth in renewable of that. What I think will be really important by the end of this decade is we start to see the ability to store CO2, and we start to see the ability to commercialize hydrogen.
So there will be new technologies.
Yeah. By 2050, you need both of those really, really working with a strong business case. And by the end of this decade, we need to start to see what that's going to look like.
I will allow myself to continue this Moldovan line, even though I'm not a Moldovan. First, President Sandu mentioned in her speech this May that she hopes that Moldova will be 2030 the member of the European Union. So I guess we will be much more far in the European integration. And the second moment, we can't forget that the trigger for the change in the situation is the Russian aggression. So I hope at 2030 we will speak more about the future of hydrogen than about the war in the close neighborhood as it is right now.
We are coming from the same region, so my answer is almost the same. 2030, you said, so democratic Russia Ukraine and Moldova are member of EU, and the rest, it's a small technical problem how to build green energy. And in such setup, it will be very easy. Yeah.
If there are no questions from the room, dear panelists, thank you very much for your thoughts. We look forward to meeting you again next year. And of course, again, thanking you very much for the support you are showing for the Aspen Institute programs and for our energy program. I give the floor to our organizers, thanking you very much for staying with us this late hours. Thank you.